Welcome back to another episode of Run Yogi Diaries. This is your host, Santosh Shiva. If you're new to the channel, please do remember to subscribe. If you like this conversation, hit like and leave your comments below and let us know what you think. So stoked to have with me today Kalyan, who recently completed his triple R, which is R to R to R, which is rim to rim to rim in Grand Canyon, an incredibly tough endurance activity. We get behind the scenes and get to learn about how he did it. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Let's dig in. Hey Kalyan, welcome to Run Yogi Diaries.
Hey, Santosh. Hey, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. We have some exciting conversation to have with you. You've been up to some mischief up in the canyons of the Grand Canyon. So that's why we're here to talk about that. We'll talk about that. But before that, let me take a stab at introducing who you are, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right. So Kalyan, you are a engineering manager working for one of the largest search engines in the world, right? Well, they're not just search engine; they're more than that. And you live in Austin, Texas. You're from Visakhapatnam, married, kids, all the good stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Definitely. All the good stuff. Yes.
all the good
Yeah.
stuff. And of course,
Vishakhapatnam is
you're an
definitely the big
endurance
highlight.
junkie as well.
I'm sorry?
And you are an endurance junkie as well.
I don't know exactly what that means, but I love to eat a lot. And the only way I can do that is to burn it off, right? So, yes,
Yeah. Okay,
that's how I do it. Yeah.
that makes sense. Great. Hey, so so first off, that's amazing, and thanks for taking your time this afternoon. We want to double click on the recent adventure that you took on, right? Which is R to R to R. Most people may have never heard of these three alphabets, but let's maybe start with that. Tell us about what is this? What is R to R to R?
Yeah. R to R to R is really short for rim to rim to rim, right? So I'm sure most people are aware of Grand Canyon and that it has the two rims, right? The north rim and the south rim. And of course, if you want to drive from one rim to the other rim, it'll take 3 to 4 hours. But they're really only like 20 plus 23 miles away from each
Hmm.
other, actually, right? So, or even if not that much, right? For you to climbing down and then it's 23 miles. So if you were to hike from one rim to the other rim, that is what is rim to rim. And then if you were to go back, it is the rim to rim to rim, right? You're coming back, right? You're coming back pretty much to the same spot. So it could also be called as rim to rim and back, right? But I guess it is really known as the rim to rim to rim, and the short as you called it, R to R to R, right? So yeah, so that's what it is. And obviously, there's a lot more involved in it because yes, there's a descent, ascent, and then walking all the distance. When it's all said and done, it's about 46 to 47 miles in total distance, and about 30,000 feet descent and 30,000 feet ascent, actually, right? So yeah, that is to summarize it into a nutshell.
That is, when you just say it, and if you've never experienced it, even part of it, right? Because I've done small portions of it, and I know how intense some of those climbs are. And when you just say it in words, in terms of 46 miles and almost 13,000 feet in ascent and descent, that's an enormous amount of change in geography, and for you to hike it, it's not a joke. It's something phenomenal, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, right. So in fact, yeah, you just said change in geography, and actually, uh, the South Rim and North Rim are so different in all ways, actually, right? Like um, uh, the north rim is 1,000 foot higher than the south rim. The kind of vegetation you see in the north rim and the south rim is different. And likewise, like when you go down into the canyon, right, it
Mhm.
is again a different uh, beast from the others, actually, right? So yeah, there is so much you get to experience. Of course, I just talked about all the how hard it is, like the 46 to 47 miles, the 30,000 feet, and all of that. But also along with it, you get to see so much beauty, and for the most part, you'll get to experience that only when you're hiking in that way, right? So you can try to see it from the top, but it's totally different, actually, right? So yeah, like yes, it is. It's a lot of effort, but it's well worth it. Actually, you'll get to see so much, and it's very beautiful there.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, let's get into what made you pick that project, right? R2R, I understand, and you did that. I know you are. I'm aware that you did that last fall, right, in 2024 fall. That itself is a challenge by itself, and then you go back and do this R2R. So tell us what motivates you in general to take on these kind of challenges.
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? So, I think you'll be very, very disappointed when you hear the answer, actually, right? So, I'm actually someone who doesn't really try to go out and do these big adventures, right? For me, uh, it is really about staying active, staying fit, right? That is what I'm really into. And again, there is a motivation for that, right? Like I love food. I just can't stop eating food, right? So but at the same time, we know you can't just keep eating,
Mhm.
and one day you'll be told by the doctors that you can't do that anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I just try to uh, prevent that or try to put that off, and my way of doing that is trying to burn it off, actually, right?
Mm,
So yeah, you in the introduction you talked about it, actually, right? So uh, I try to stay very active. I run a lot, and
mm,
at the same time, you should also know that I'm very undisciplined, actually.
mm,
So I don't maintain the same schedule. Of course, it's for a lot of reasons, right? Sure, you can call them excuses, but a lot of reasons I can't maintain a good routine. So I don't get to run as much as I really want to run on like a regular basis. So what I do is I try to make it up by doing very long distances over the weekend. Actually, if I
mm,
if I missed running regularly over the weekdays, I'm like, okay, let me just get caught up. Actually, let's just run a long distance, right? So that's what I've been doing, and I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time, actually, right? Like
okay.
about 15 years or so, to a point where it's almost second nature to me. I don't really think about it, actually, right? So, like running, uh, like a 12 miler, 15 miler is a regular weekend thing.
Okay.
Again, I'm not saying I do that every weekend, but
Mhm,
I
mhm.
don't have to like plan it out or whatever, right? Like I might just wake up that morning and I might just feel like, oh, let's just go. And then I'll probably think of going for like a 10-mile run. And then in the middle of it, I'll be like, oh, let's just change the route. And it ends up being a 15 miler, actually, right? And that is who I've always been. But at the same time, for me, it's always been a door to door, right? Like I like the minute I walk out of the door, my miles start counting, and then when I hit the door is when my miles stop, right?
Right, right.
So I've never really been big into like doing races or like going for any adventures or events or things like that, actually. But only when my friends push, right? So anyway, coming back to the question, why did I go back to do the R2R2R, right? So one of my friends who also works at the same company I do, and he heard about me doing the R2R, and he was very interested. He asked a lot of details about it, and he's been into doing a lot of like ultra Spartan races. Actually, he's into
Hmm.
Spartan. So he was like, "Hey, I want to do a 50 miler actually, and I think this will be a perfect one to do a 50 miler. So that's what I'm thinking. Do you want to go along, right?" This was like actually in early winter last year, but then I was traveling in India, and I there was a lot going on in my personal life. When I got back, I was still not sure whether I want to do it or not. And finally, like mid to late February, I was like, yeah, let's do it actually, right? This is probably the kind of thing that even I would want to challenge myself with.
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
never done more than a marathon actually ever before. So I was like, let's see if I'm up for this, if I can do it or not. Yeah, that was the triggering thing. Yeah, of course, had very little time actually, because I made the decision only like in uh, mid to late February, and we did this like in early May, right? So it was very little time.
Hmm.
But that's a whole different thing. We can definitely talk about it. But that is the reason why I did it. So no real big motivational thing there. So
Okay, no,
yeah,
no, that makes sense, right? So one, you are someone who keeps a certain. You say you're not consistent, but you are consistent in a way, because from a weekend perspective, you're doing those 10, 12 miles, so your aerobic base fitness is in place, right? So which is a good
yeah,
thing, I think, right? uh, for people
yeah.
who are listening to this, right? Because mm, that could be a way to do it, right? Maybe it's not about 3 to 4 days a week. It's that one, that long run every weekend. If you can keep consistent on that, that itself keeps your base fitness alive.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend that as a thing. Again, you will have to build yourself up
Yeah,
to that. Actually, so I
right, right.
wouldn't recommend anyone to start out by doing that.
Of course.
But again, so for the most part, I do a lot of short runs, right?
Mm.
And then there are some weeks where I can't, right, for work or whatever reason, actually. And then I'm like, okay, let's go for a longer one, actually, right? And of course, if someone is really thinking of doing something like this, actually, right? Yeah, rather than really doing like a 12 miler or a 15 miler, try to do like two, maybe 6 milers or whatever, right? Like start out a
Yeah.
little bit in between and then try to build yourself up, right? So, yeah. And then actually back to the point or the comment you were saying about like, maybe I'm not that, not disciplined or undisciplined, right? So, actually, I get that a lot, right? Like a lot of people say that. It's like, hey, no way, man. And my response back to them is like, yes, you're right, right? So I'm probably the most disciplined, undisciplined person. I'm undisciplined to begin with, and then I try to somehow add some discipline to it, actually, right? So yes.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, and that motivation to like you said, I like to eat a lot, so the best way to continue to want to eat a lot is to stay active. Hey, that is a valid thing, because most people want to eat a lot, but the part of the other part is where everyone struggles, right? So that's a perfect motivation. And to your point, having someone else beside you who's also has similar goals helps, right? Because sometimes you're just sitting back, and life's just going around, and someone comes and says, hey, can we do this? And suddenly your brain is caught onto that, and you jump onto it, and then hey, you get it done, right? So that but then you made a choice, you choose it, and you say, okay, I'll do it, right? So that's quite amazing. So now let's get into a bit about, you said, you talked a little bit about your base training, or whatever training you normally do, which is the weekly runs. Now what about your prep for this event before starting February? So you had about 2 months. Talk about what were your key strategies for training given that a short time.
Yeah, yeah. Again, right? Like one of the advantages for me was sure, like I've been into long distance running, and also I've done a rim to rim before, right? Like as much as I talked about how I'm not someone who goes out and does these adventures a lot. Uh, Having done the rim to rim has given me like like a platform to build on, right? Like I knew, like for example, one of the things, right? Like I always run in my Vibram five fingers. Okay.
Hmm.
And that's what
Like
I
sister, like
use.
brother.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, we both of us love and swear by the Vibram five fingers, right? And actually, yeah, in fact, I did the rim to rim with my sister, right? And we both were doing it in those Vibram five fingers.
Hmm.
She loved it, but I did not really enjoy it actually, right? So that is probably the only one time I talked about how the Vibram five fingers did not uh, weren't the
Hmm.
perfect ones, right?
Hmm.
Again, it could have been the model of the five fingers that I was using.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just was using the regular V run, and it has like no traction, no
Hmm.
support at all, and the rim to rim, the Grand Canyon, the hike, right? Like that can be challenging in a lot of ways, actually, right? So it's very, very like soily, and it's like loose. You need a lot of traction. And then there are like rocks actually, right? Like a lot of times you're like stepping on these rocks, and the combination of the soil on top of the rocks when with no traction, you would be slipping a lot actually, right? And
Right.
so by the time I finished the rim to rim, I felt like, yeah, my feet were beat up a little bit. And
Hmm.
for me to do a rim to rim to rim, there's no way I would do that in at least my V run.
Hmm.
So I was going to um, go to a different one, right? So I had some advantages, right? Sure enough, it was, I say 2 months, but then there was a platform or some experience that helped me
Hmm.
make the right choices, actually, right? Um, so yeah, coming to the training. Anyway, let me finish up on the the
Yeah.
shoes. So I wanted to do the V trail. So I tried the V trail, but did not go with the V trail because I got the wrong size. In the sense,
Hmm.
I got the same size, but apparently V trail needs, you need to go a higher size or two sizes higher for the V trail. I didn't know that, and I have like two black toes to prove my
Hmm.
point actually. But eventually I was like, oh, now I have to change. And as I said, it was only 2 months to begin with, and I was already losing time. And at that point, I was like, okay, let me just go with something like everyone recommends. So I went
Hmm.
with Ultras actually. Again, I wanted zero drop shoes. I did not want to take a risk with something different because I've been used to running with the zero drop shoes for 15 years now, right? So,
Okay.
I did the ultras, and that worked great actually,
Hmm.
right? So that's on the shoes. But anyway, coming back to the question
And
about,
just as a disclaimer, none of these brands are sponsoring this show.
you,
Well, they
you,
can if they want to.
exactly. You never know, man. Maybe Ultra sponsored me, but no, not really. I'm just kidding. Actually.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. So with regard to the training, so actually, again, living in Austin, Austin is not too bad, like when you compare to the rest of Texas. But
Yeah.
at the same time, Austin doesn't have any hikes that are anywhere close to like a Grand Canyon hike, right?
Right.
And also the other thing is, first of all, like most people, when we talk about hikes, most people are thinking about like uh, at most like a challenging one is like going up a hill, a mountain, and then coming back, right? A canyon is actually quite the opposite, actually, right?
Hmm.
So, uh, like when you're climbing up a hill or a mountain, the hard part is at the very beginning, and then it gets easy when you're coming
Hmm.
back down, right? For the most part, actually,
Hmm.
for most people, I should
Hmm.
say, right? Like unless not you have like knee issues or whatever, right?
Hmm.
But with a canyon, it's quite the opposite, actually, right?
Hmm.
So you're going down, first, and then you're coming back up, actually, right? So in fact, at Grand Canyon, they have these signs that actually says that. going down is optional, but going back up is mandatory,
Yeah.
actually, right? So that is the hard part, actually, right?
Mm.
So I really needed to the biggest thing that I needed to figure out for my training, which I did for rim to rim also, was like, how do I simulate that, actually, right? How
Mhm.
do I simulate like going down, then running across, and then going back up, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I read somewhere someone suggested that try to find a very tall building and just like take the elevator to the top, climb down, take the
Mhm.
elevator back to the top, climb down, right? Like repeat it
Mhm. Mhm.
to how many ever like flights you need to get,
Mhm.
and then do your run, and then now do the reverse, actually, right? Like to climb up, take the elevator down, right? So which is what I did, and
Okay.
fortunately, the office building that I work in is like a 31-story building, actually.
Okay.
So that made it easy, actually, for me, right? So that's what I did for my rim to rim, and I just had to like now extend it, actually, right? So
Mhm.
in this particular case, I had to go down, go for a trail run, then go up, and now again, like do the reverse again, right? Like go down, run across, and then go up, actually, right? So that was essentially what I was doing, actually, right? And
Mhm.
uh, of course, that's not something I would do every day. I would
Mhm.
do that like I think I did that maybe 3 times in the span of the 2 months that
Okay.
I was training for this. The rest of the days, I would try to find uh, as much of an uphill I can find and try to run up that
Okay.
and try to repeat that, right? Again, that's not the same as what a canyon is, actually, because you're running up and down and things like that. But again, I was trying to build up my endurance of doing that, right? So those were really
Mhm.
the big things that I focused on in my
Okay.
training, actually. Um, as it got closer to uh, the day, like about a month into it or a month before it, I should say, um, I started training with backpack, which is again something that I did for my rim to rim. But this time around, there was more challenges in the sense the time when we did it, the rim to rim to rim, the north rim was still closed, actually,
Mhm.
which means there were no services, there would be no food or anything available there. So when we had to do this, we had to like plan for the entire 47 miles. Like we had
Mm.
to carry enough nutrition, right? Um, like if if you had your way, you could have like a friend or someone like come give you like half the
Mm.
supplies when you get to the north rim, and then you can come back with that, actually, right? So you could carry
Mhm.
like only half the supplies, or maybe you could have a good meal when you get to the north rim or things like that, right? So we did not have that luxury. Of course, it was again by choice, right? We could have chosen to do it when the north rim opened,
Right.
but again, it was very expensive when the North Rim was opening, actually,
Mm.
right? And we were like, hey, we trained enough. We should be able to do this, actually, without that kind of a support. So why don't we just do it, right? So it was definitely by choice. So we had to prepare for all of that. So yeah, when I started training with a backpack, I started like ensuring that I had enough supplies in it, and I wanted to make sure that the bag weighed appropriately. And I was definitely doing as much hydration, as much electrolytes, and everything, actually, right? In fact, when I did the uh, my longest training day,
Mhm.
I actually trained with a very heavy backpack. Uh,
So
Again, I was trying to.
what's the weight? What's the weight that you were planning when you were?
I had no idea what all I will need, right? Like I
Mhm.
had a checklist of all the things, and I was trying to be a little conservative, trying to go like, hey, let me take more than I need, or because I don't know
Mhm.
how much I will need, right? Like when we started out, we thought it'll be a 16-hour hike.
Mm.
And then we thought it'll be 18, 19. Eventually, it ended up being 22 and a half hours. Right? But again,
Okay.
I had zero idea going into it whether it'll be done in 22 hours or whether it will be closer
Mm.
to 48 hours, right? So
Right.
we had to be prepared for all of it actually, right? So that's the reason why I was playing very conservative and I was carrying like more things than I needed. Like I was packing an extra shirt with me than I would have otherwise, right? Like I was packing more, like cooling towels, more food, more of everything actually, right? So of course, while I was training, I also had that luxury that, okay, I can always stop at any point, take it off and see. So, but I was really testing to see if I can carry that much or not, right?
Hmm.
So I was really training with a 35-pound bag, and that
Wow.
was real heavy actually, to a point
Mm.
where that day I did like a 10 and a half hour training actually,
Wow.
and about um, 6,000 feet of descent. And so again, I was doing stairs again just
Yeah.
to make sure, right? Doing stairs is not exactly like going down
Hmm.
uh, the the trails on a hike, right? But again, that is the closest that I could simulate it, right? And so that day I did like 6,000 feet of descent, 6,000 feet of ascent uh, on stairs. And I also did like 12-mile run actually. And
Mm.
all of it, almost all of it, I should say, with that 35-pound backpack. The last 5 times I was going up, again, I did 13 of those, right? Like the last five I was doing, my shoulders were just in so much pain that I couldn't take it anymore. So I just left the backpack at that point. I just carried only the water with me, and I just finished those five. So at that point, I knew that there is no way I'll be able to do something as heavy. So went with plan B. It was like, uh, the smallest backpack. Let me try to find the uh, bare minimum that I need. I will have to get creative if, again, it takes longer or whatever, right? The good news is, like again, I was talking about like I was packing an extra shirt, extra cooling towels, and things like that. The good news is there's like a creek that runs along,
Okay.
right? So you can always like, and that is actually a very important thing for everyone to do who is doing a
Hmm.
rim to rim
Hmm.
or rim to rim to
Hmm.
rim, actually, right? So to any opportunity you have to get into the water, you would get in and cool yourself off because the temperature down there is almost always like 100 plus. Actually, it is
Hmm.
very hard that you're running in. Actually, right? So you would run again. You're recommended to run in a cotton shirt, so you can like dip the cotton shirt in the water, and the water will be like freezing cold, actually, right? And
Okay.
the minute you put it on, it's like, oh my God, that's how you
Mm.
feel. But then it feels great after that, actually,
Hmm.
right? So,
Hmm. Hmm.
so I was like, oh, I can wash off my shirt, I can wash off my
Mm.
cooling towel. So again, I was trying to like figure out other ways of making it work rather than carrying too much, right? So yeah, that is really like figuring out how I can simulate the things, figuring out how much the backpack should weigh based on that, figuring out what backpack I needed and things like that, right? Yeah, so that is really what went into the whole
Yeah.
training.
Well, that is quite an insightful what you shared, because there seems to be so much of planning. There's so much of I mean, of course, there's a lot of science. There's a lot of simulation of what closest you can get to that real event, even wherever you live, right? No, so that is, and 10.5 hours of a training day is there's a serious commitment, right? And we're not kidding here. And so that's amazing, right? Wonderful insights there for people who may be interested to do the rim to rim, or the ones that R to R to R, right? Triple R, RRR,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
RRR. There we go. That's a popular movie.
yeah.
Cool. That's great. Now, the day of the event, how did it go? Did it go as per plan?
It mostly went as planned, actually.
Okay.
Uh, Again, I was doing this with another friend I mentioned earlier, and he's been into Spartan races, and he had a a Spartan race 5 weeks before
Mm.
our hike, and unfortunately, he twisted his knee
Uh,
in that race. Um, but he was a great trooper. He really took good care of his knee, trained well, even with all of that, and we were able to finish it actually, right? But because of that, we had to uh, make sure that we were like conscious of what's going on with their knee, and
mm.
we had to be watching out for that all the time actually, right? So um, so the plan, even before we started the hike, was to only walk downhills, not to run downhills.
Okay.
So as I said, initially when we started uh, talking about this, like in February, we were thinking that we will try to finish this in 16 hours, and the plan
Mm.
was to run downhill, run the flattish parts,
Hmm.
and only walk the uphills, right? Um, but then again, we knew that maybe 16 is a bit aggressive, but as we found out about his knee situation, we did not want to like take any risks with it, so we did not want to run downhills.
Okay.
So we thought it would probably be like a 19-ish, 20-hour hike. It ended up being 22 and a half hours. So that is probably the biggest thing that did not go as planned. But otherwise, everything else, I would say, went as planned. Um, in 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 a lot of ways, I will probably even say um, it ended up being easier than I thought.
Mm.
Um, Again, with all the training and everything I did, in some ways, not a lot actually, right? It was only
Mm.
2 months, right? So for something like this, generally I would recommend to do at least 6 months of training, right?
Hmm.
So I wouldn't recommend anyone, even if you did the rim to rim, I would say, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I wouldn't recommend anyone to go with a 2 month training. But at the same time, again, every person knows
Yeah.
their fitness level, and if you're already like ready for that kind of thing, sure, why not, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm sorry, what was the question? I got sick.
No, about the plan, whether it went as per plan, and you were
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that pretty
exactly
much
right.
it went on plan. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So the week leading up to the hike, actually, um, yes, had a lot of training. I felt I was very prepared, but I was still very anxious.
Hmm.
The thing with the Grand Canyon is it can be brutal on you. And
Hmm.
there is no way you'll be able to simulate everything, right? There's only so much you can try. So you have no idea how this will turn out to be. And the biggest thing is if something were to go wrong, like you're rolling your ankle or like you get dehydrated or something like that, right? It's a long time before you'll get help actually, right?
Mm.
And the conditions down there are not very conducive for you to be able to like, oh, let me just rest for a little bit and then get back, right?
Yeah.
So I was definitely feeling some butterflies actually, but uh, it actually was way easier
Hmm.
than I imagined actually. Um, I think, like I said, right, the geography, the beauty, the nature, it just makes it like
Yeah.
very easy on you actually, right? So you're not thinking about the effort. You're
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
because generally, like when you're running a marathon, I'm
Yeah.
sure as soon as you finish the first mile, you're like, oh man, I still have 25 more miles of this.
Hmm.
Like, so you're continuously thinking about like how much
Yeah.
more to go, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you're doing something like this, you're so like in awe of what's there that you're not really thinking about how hard this is actually,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that is a big factor that played into it.
Cool.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I feel like it was simpler
Mm.
than what I thought it to be.
Great. No, glad to know that. And obviously, training is key, and looks like whatever you did worked, right? And you had the fitness was there to enjoy the event, even though if it was grueling. On paper it looks very grueling, 46 miles, 13,000 feet of climb. But it seems like because you had trained, whatever you trained worked, right? And so that's what I would kind of take away from this, what you shared. And the more important thing, again, I think I'm just going to come back and maybe underline that again and again, is the base training was there, right? Because there was a certain base fitness. Now, if you're someone who's going to start this from scratch, yes, you do need those 6 months to, which is, you have your phases of training. You build your base, you build your aerobic base, then you build your strength, etc., etc. So there's a whole science behind that. But because you're someone who's already has a basic training in place, whatever you did for those 2 months was probably intense, but it worked for what you did, is what I would kind of summarize, right? And one other question I had was on fueling, because look, 44 miles, 22 hours, that's a lot of calories. Um, how did you, what was your plan? What was your strategy on fueling?
Yeah. So actually, um, one of the things we had to do as we started the training was to even figure out how much food we need, how much
Hmm.
fuel we need, actually, right? Yeah, we did some simple math. We were like, okay, it's going to be about 50 miles. And generally, like a mile of run would be about 100 to 110 calories. But we were like, well, there are uphills, downhills, and things like that. So on average, let's do 130. So that ended up being like 6,500 calories, right? And then we thought, okay, 20 hours. So again, 100 calorie, your body burns about 100 calories an hour, actually, kind of a
Hmm.
thing, right? So it's like, okay, so you need 2,000 more calories. So it is like 8,500 calories is what or at least I was planning
Hmm.
to go with, right? And you definitely need a lot of energy gels. You need that, yeah, instant energy, right? You can't be
Hmm.
like doing regular food and expecting that your body will be able to like process all of that and give you that uh,
Hmm.
energy immediately, right? And also the other thing is like if you want to carry regular food, that's going to be very heavy also, right? Like
Heavier. Hmm.
the calories to the weight ratio is just going to make you carry a lot, actually, right? So
Hmm.
so I used a gel, actually, and I know we don't want to be talking about the brands and things like that, but so it's uh, I went with the highest calorie packed gel, actually. So it's a 200 calorie
That's
gel.
fine. You can mention the brand, as long as
Yeah.
maybe they'll start sponsoring me after this.
So yeah, I use the Cops Fuel gel, actually.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people are not too enthused with its taste and things like that, but for me, it was more about like getting more
Hmm.
calories. And also it's pretty inexpensive, actually, right? Like
Hmm.
$2 for the 200 calories, actually, right? Like each
Hmm.
packet's $2. That is what I went with, and I plan to do like one gel per hour. So again, for I carried 18 gels with me, and then I also carried some energy bars. I used the Cliff bars, actually. Again, it has a like a good amount of crunch with it, and also it gives you about 250 calories. So the Cliff bars is what I went with, actually. Again, I tried different bars. There were some bars that were like getting too smushy and things like that, actually,
Yeah.
right? So the Cliff ended up being the right kind of
Okay.
thing for different reasons for me. And then we also carried some salty
Okay.
snacks with us, actually, right? So again, just eating so much of like energy gel, which is
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
really sweet, actually, right? And Cliff Bars are also going to be sweet, right? At some point, you're going to feel like you want something different,
Yeah.
right? So we carried some salty snacks with us. But again, we were very like yeah, we did not try to overindulge or carry too
Right.
much. Again, weight was a big concern for us, right? Weight and volume, right? Like you
Hmm.
don't
Hmm.
want too big of a backpack also, right?
Right.
So we took some of the chips, like we would like put it in a Ziploc, we would really crush them down to
Hmm.
like take the least volume actually, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we did. Um, but going back to the question about like nutrition, right? Like and fuel, that is really a very very key thing actually, right?
Hmm.
I'm sure people will experience a lot of cramping, a lot of uh, like where you can't move any further, not only because of cramp, but you're like
Hmm.
completely depleted on energy and things like that, right?
Hmm.
When you're doing something as rigorous as this, you really need a lot of like instant energy. So
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
gels are perfect for that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So definitely again, during the training, you want to try out different gels
Yeah.
to see, especially if you're sensitive, like your teeth are sensitive to it, or like you're sensitive to certain types of ingredients or whatever you want to try out different things. Fortunately for me, I'm someone who can just handle any kind of taste, so I
Hmm.
did not
Hmm.
have to try different things, right? Like otherwise, again, 2 months would not have been enough for me to be able
Right.
to like
Right.
try out all those things actually. But the bottom line is really want to nail down on what gels you're using and what electrolytes you're using. And you need to figure out how much you need and at what frequency you're going to do it, right? Um, a lot of the people that I've heard who have struggled doing these kinds of hikes, especially on the canyon, is as I talked about with the canyon, when you're going downhill, it just seems so easy, actually, right?
Hmm.
Again,
Yeah.
relatively, right? And then the hard part is towards the end. You have to come
Yeah.
back up, right? So it's easy for a lot of people to actually think that, oh, I don't need as many electrolytes. I don't need as much in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Um, but by the time you realize you need it, it is probably a bit too late, actually, right? So what I did was I just had like a routine of like every hour I'm gonna do electrolytes and I'm gonna do a gel
Hmm.
actually, right? So that is what I had, and I pretty much stuck
Stuck
to
to
it
that.
actually, right?
Makes a lot of
Um,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
In some ways, maybe I overdid the electrolytes.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, I was recently donating blood, and generally my blood pressure runs 110 over 70, right? But I saw it as 130 over 90. So it's possible that I overdid my electrolytes during the training and all of that, right? But again, it is not um, way out of the ordinary, the 130 over
Hmm.
90,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So you want to be careful about how much you're doing. Definitely, you don't want to go under, right?
Yeah.
Dehydration is a big problem actually, right? So yeah, figure out what electrolytes and how frequently you're going to do, what gel or what fuel you're using, and how frequently you're going to do, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that is a key, and
Wonderful.
you want to figure that out in the training actually.
Yeah. Great. Those are very, very, very insightful, very precise, very specific way to plan that. And I agree with you on the whole aspect of being a little proactive about your intake, right? So that you, because once you've bonked or once you've got to a point where you're cramping, then it's sometimes a little late, and then you have to recover it, and it's challenging, especially if you're out there in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
those are great,
one
great
thing.
insights. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing if I can add on that actually, right? So like when we coming back to the South Rim as we were climbing up the South Rim, I really started to like scale back on my electrolytes and
Mm,
my gels actually at that point, right? I again, like I said, I had a feeling that I overdid it, and I
mhm,
had a feeling that I have enough of it
mhm.
to a point where I scale back, right? So um, again, that is a better place to be in than
Yeah.
the other way around, where you're like you underdid it, and now your body can't get caught
Yeah.
up actually, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Great. Hey, that was wonderful. I think we covered quite a lot of ground. We talked about what is this the whole art to art, the whole gamut, what it is, what you can do, and why you do it, and all the preparation that goes in. Very insightful, very useful, I'm sure, for people who want to do it themselves. And I like your approach. For although you say you're not disciplined, your approach is very systematic. There's a lot of thought that's gone behind it, because it's not. See, I speak to I've spoken to many athletes, and some of them are very intuitive, in the sense they just do. If I ask them why they do what they do, I would not get the answer that you just gave me, which is you know what you're doing, because what you're doing, and what's the purpose behind it. That's very clear, right? And which is helpful, because if someone else wants to replicate it, they know why should they be taking a gel of 200 calories an hour? Why should they be taking electrolytes an hour? There's a very clear strategy. So very insightful. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Kind of coming to end of our conversation, or close of our conversation. We covered quite a lot of ground. I have a fun Q&A round at the end of the conversation, which
Okay.
I will throw some general questions for the fun of it, right? So one is, you talked about food, right? So what is your favorite junk food?
That's a very good question. And for someone like me, anything works actually, right?
Uh-huh.
Like seriously,
As long as it's
I
junk,
can.
it's fun.
So I'm not just about junk food actually. I eat a lot of healthy food also.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
In fact, most people when they see me at lunch at work, right? They see me with a salad bowl actually,
Uh,
and um, and they're like, "Why do you always eat a salad?" Actually, right? I'm like, "Hey, when I'm eating unconsciously, I'm eating the worst part.
right,
When I'm
right.
eating consciously, I want to do the healthy
Yeah, yeah.
stuff actually, right? So yeah, like it's not like I
So
go
give me one.
for
Give me your
the
favorite top junk food that you really love. Any day you would break some promises for it.
chocolate. Chocolate would be the
Chocolate.
thing,
Yeah.
actually. So chocolate is my go-to. In fact, after my runs also, right? Like chocolate has like again, it's good actually, right? It has antioxidants. It is supposed to help you recover. At least that's what I tell myself, right? So so
You try
yeah,
to make it as unjunk as possible.
yes, yes, at least psychologically, you don't have to feel bad about it, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
sure it has so much bad in it, but yeah, I'm still eating it, right? So
Okay,
it's
cool. So when you're not planning an endurance event, what do you do to enjoy yourself?
spending time with family.
Mm,
um, Again, I talked about why I do this is because I love to eat food and I want to stay healthy, right? And I want to stay healthy so I can like have a long time with my family, actually, right? So every moment I can spend time with my family, with kids, I do it, right? So yeah, that is the biggest thing. But again, right, like any opportunity to go out there,
mm.
even if it is not like a run, right, like playing volleyball or
Okay.
pickleball or things like that, right? So again, some way to burn off the calories, actually, right? So that's another good thing. And then I'm a big DIYer, so I
Oh,
do
okay.
a lot of stuff around the house, like whether it is uh, like building security automation or whatever actually, right? So things like that. So now that I'm an engineering manager, I don't get to do a lot of like coding, but that's how I still get to like scratch my itch.
Okay. All right. So if we need a handyman, we know who to call. But then you'll have to come all the way from Austin. That's the only downside.
Yeah. You can probably
Cool.
pay for it, and then yeah, I'll get my sister also, right? So yes.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Cool. Hey, last one. So, if we made a movie of your life
Oh my
so
God.
far,
Okay.
what genre would you put it in, and who would you hire to play your role?
Oh, genre. Oh my God. This is hard actually. I'm I'm a very low key person.
Hmm.
In fact, you even like when you approached me about this, I was like, hey, I don't know if I really want to do this actually, right? I I don't know. Maybe it'll be just a family movie, right?
Uh,
It's like, yeah,
family entertainer.
exactly, yes.
Okay.
And who would be? I, I don't know. I like Amir Khan a lot. I think he really gets into the character. So yeah, maybe
Maybe
if
he's
I
the
if
guy.
I can pick someone, I'm sure he'll not be interested in doing something like mine. But
Amir,
if
there's a
I can
script
pick
coming
one,
your way. We'll send you the script. You're not the first. There's a few other guests who were Amir. A lot of it looks like it's a very common theme among endurance athletes. Seems like I think if I were to pick out of some 100 interviews I've done, I would say at least 20-30% have said Amir Khan who will play their role, which
yeah,
is a
yeah,
big testimonial to his skills as well.
oh yeah,
Great.
definitely.
Perfect. So, hey, that was a fun conversation. Learned a lot, and we're kind of coming to a close. So, before we wrap up, I want to give you the last word. Any message you want to give to the listeners?
The one thing I'll say is for anything different you want to try or any challenging thing that you want to do, right? There are three things for people to always think about, right? It is the will, the hill, and the skill, right?
Mm,
So the willpower, obviously, we all know, right? A lot of us think if we have the willpower, we'll be able to do it, but um, it's not as simple as that. But at the same time, willpower is definitely the biggest of all the three things. You need it. You need to have that will. Okay.
mhm,
But just with that, you will not be able to do it. We talked about the nutrition, the fuel, and all of that, right? So that's part of the hill. Actually, you need to figure out what is it like. What are the challenges you run into, right? Like
mhm,
again, no pun intended, but when you run a 20 miler, what are the issues, right? Like
mhm,
do you
mhm,
cramp up? Do you have shin splints? Whatever it is, right? Like, and most people actually think that, oh, because of that I can't do it, right?
mhm,
I've had issues. I used to cramp up a lot. I've had like tendonitis in my knee because when I would go for these long runs, it would cause that. But then when I saw physiotherapists, actually, like especially physiotherapists who were based on running, actually, they helped me quite a bit. Very
mhm,
simple changes in things, right? Like
mhm,
like really, the one change is lift your knee up, and it'll actually prevent your foot from rotating a lot, and that will prevent the tendonitis from happening, right?
mhm,
They talk to me about electrolytes and things like that, right? I know you were saying earlier that I'm someone who is like really thinking about it. Actually, no, I used to not be
mhm,
someone, right?
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
but I like I used to hit the wall actually.
okay.
So you need to figure out what is that, uh,
Mhm, mhm,
what is your hill, and you need to
mhm,
figure out how to
mhm,
overcome it, right? And then the skill, obviously, right?
mhm,
So again, yes, how you're running and all of that, right? So
mhm,
like you need to make sure that you have a good support group with you who can help uh, to improve your skill and all of that actually. And of course, the physiotherapist also helped me a lot actually, right? So that's a very big thing. And for me, again, I did not talk about this at all. My sister actually, she was not supposed to be there at all for the rim to
mhm,
rim to rim actually, right? But like a week before the hike, she was like, "I'm going. I'll be there." I was like, "Hey, you will not see me for even a minute in between. You'll see me at the beginning, you will see me at the end, right? And she was like, but that is the most important thing. I'll be there. And I'm sure that also made a big difference when I said it was way easier than that. Like, so you definitely need the support system. So yeah, it really comes down to those things for you to be able to overcome any big thing.
Yeah, lovely. I love that. I think it's a nice theme, right? Will, hill, and skill. Easy to remember. Good one. Well, hey Kalyan, we've been here for about an hour now, and thanks for a lovely conversation. Very insightful, as I said, and I'll let you go enjoy the rest of the evening. Until the next time, have a good one.
Thank you, Santosh. I really enjoyed the conversation too, and thank you for doing this with me.